After getting destroyed by the Cardinals last night, it's less fun than, I will tell you that, the wins and losses matter. And obviously I'm not the general manager. I don't pick the players. I'm not responsible for the trades. But the team performance has incredibly strong impact on your mood, on how easy or difficult your job is. We're selling tickets, we're selling sponsorships. If the team's really good, it's easy. If the team's lousy, it's difficult. But my job is really managing a lot of people. I have a great staff of people, and we have, probably 170 full-time individuals in the business operations side, and then our general manager has about 150 full-time scouts and baseball operations people that report through him. So it's a lot of managing people. We're constantly focused on ticket sales and promotions. We're focused on a lot of business analytics. How do we price things? Tickets are all variable priced, so depending on the game, and how the Brewers are doing and where you're sitting, the tickets will be all priced differently, and we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the optimal pricing. We spend a lot of time on the in-game experience. We have a lot of deals in the media world with radio, with television, so we're doing a lot of analysis and a lot of negotiation with sponsors and with media companies. I'm spending a lot of time actually with lobbyists at the state capitol a few miles away, dealing with issues relating to the tax that funded the construction of Miller Park, which is ending next March. If you're from the 5 counties in southeastern Wisconsin, you're familiar with that. If you're not, you're probably not familiar with it, but it's something that's a big deal to us. So we're doing a lot of discussions with the wonderful elected officials that represent the state of Wisconsin. It's a lot of, like I said, people management. We sometimes have a joke that our jobs would be easy if we didn't have people to manage, because most of what we do is you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with people trying to make correct decisions, but there's drama. People don't always get along. People will make some bad decisions. People will do, and we're a very public business, so if we do something silly or stupid, it's going to be news, and it's not the kind of news or attention you want. So not only do we have to make right decisions, but we have to be very sensitive to how those decisions are viewed by the media and by the fans. And again, the focus right now is more on the team on the field. So if the team's struggling, the fans and media are focusing on that. If the team's doing well, then the halo effect of success from the team does translate to the business operations. So we just got to start our pitching. Our pitching has to be a little better. That's the ticket. When I was in high school and grade school, I was a baseball fan from the time I was 5, and I was not good enough to be a baseball player. That was very clear. But I always loved baseball. I loved the Brewers, but I also loved the statistics about baseball and the history of baseball. I read all these books about baseball, so I was a baseball junkie. And then after law school, I wanted to be a lawyer for a team, and I sent all these letters to every baseball team, and all of them rejected me. And the common theme was, why would we need a lawyer for a baseball team? That's just silly. If we have a need for a lawyer, we'll just hire an outside lawyer from a law firm. Now it's very different. Every law firm has, every baseball team has multiple attorneys in-house. So I practiced law, and I was always a follower of the game, but I didn't know how to get involved. And then I went to the Walt Disney Company, and fortuitously, the Walt Disney Company bought the Angels, then the Anaheim Angels, now the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And everybody at the studio knew that I was the big baseball, fanatic. So when they needed a general counsel, they asked if I would transfer from the studio in Burbank to the baseball team in Anaheim, and of course, I said yes. That was an easy decision. And they also owned a hockey team, the Mighty Ducks, so I was general counsel for the hockey team and the baseball team. People in Los Angeles, if you ever know anything about the city, the traffic is terrible. So I lived near UCLA, but I worked in Anaheim, so that's 45 miles each way through LA traffic. And I took like 6 freeways to get to the office, and I went at weird times because otherwise I'd be in traffic for 3 hours. But it was worth it. And then once I was working for the Angels, once you're inside baseball, you get to know people, and it's very easy then to migrate. So when the Brewers were doing some reshuffling in their front office in the early 2000s, obviously I knew people at the Brewers because I was from Milwaukee and I worked for the Angels, and they asked me to come and run the business operations. So I moved from the great weather of California to the lovely weather we have in Wisconsin, but so I've been there ever since. So it was just being at the right place at the right time. Sometimes your best career breaks are just luck, and just and then pouncing on it. But randomness and luck have a lot of influence in what people end up doing. There's nothing wrong with it. I always thought that it would make sense for a baseball team to have a lawyer, because if you think about it, there's a lot of negotiation that goes on, and lawyers are trained negotiators. And whether it's salary arbitration, negotiating with player contracts or agents or sponsors or anything, and there's a lot of legal work that a baseball team generates. And I always thought it was strange that that most teams didn't have in-house lawyers. But I figured, see what happens. And I would have been perfectly content, working at the Walt Disney Company. I really enjoyed that job, and if it didn't materialize, I would have been okay. I've still been a big fan of baseball, but just being at the right time and having this reputation as the fanatic about baseball helped a lot, because it's not a requirement for the job that you love baseball, but certainly makes you a more attractive candidate, and also makes it more interesting for you. If you love the industry you're in, you will have a lot more enjoyment out of your job. If you don't, you will be miserable. I was a lawyer in a private practice, and I didn't love it at all. It was a lot of hours, and it wasn't fun. And the only thing that was good was the pay was really good, which is nice, and you learn a lot. So I was getting good experience, but it was not fun to go to work every day as a lawyer in a big law firm. So I was fortunate to be able to migrate out of that. And now I don't have to practice law at all, which is fun too. I think that I went to law school, so having a history degree was a great preparation for law school. I'm not recommending law school if you don't really want to be a lawyer, but if you have interest in law, liberal arts degree generally and a history degree in particular is really advantageous, because law school is all writing, and it's critical thinking, and that's sort of what you do in history. You're doing a lot of writing. I imagine you have papers to write. And you're analyzing a lot of events and giving different interpretations of things. And then what I do in my job now is, I don't necessarily practice law, but I use my law degree and my training and my communication skills that I learned starting in Madison, and your critical thinking every day. One of the things we do at the Brewers is incredible amount of emails and communication. So we don't text. In the working world, it's all emails or formal memos, and you have to be concise, you have to have a point, you have to be accurate, you have to often make an argument or state a position, because there's often competing ideas or competing ways to get to a specific objective. And whether I'm communicating with our ownership group on a strategy, or whether my direct reports are communicating to me on questions or issues that come up and their problems or their approach to solving the problems, they have to really be very careful and clear in how they're communicating. And a lot of what we do is analyzing problems and really coming up with solutions. And it's not that far removed from what you guys are doing in your liberal arts education. When I was in college, the internships were really not a thing. I painted houses in the summer. That's what my job. I wanted to make a lot of money and be outdoors, and we just didn't have the opportunities that I think exist now for internships and to do sort of career-based activities in the summer. So I just I made some money, and I knew I was going to go to law school. And when I was in law school, I interned at law firms. I interned at a law firm in New York and then one in Chicago. So I had a chance to sort of feel what it was like to be a lawyer at a big firm and get some exposure in that way. But as an undergrad, there's so many opportunities for you guys to really, if you have an interest in a specific career path, if you haven't taken advantage of the opportunities, you really should, because whether they're paid or unpaid, you're going to get some great experience. And the other thing, you may find out you don't want to do something. If you have this notion of what you want to do for a career and then you intern for a summer and you hate it, it may be an opportunity to pivot. That's a valuable experience, right? You learn what you like and learn what you don't like. But now, you know, the Brewers have internships. Most big companies are, you know, looking for interns and have programs, and it's a great opportunity to get exposure and network. I think law school is pretty competitive because you've got, you know, a lot of high achieving, you know, students who are motivated, who are interested in learning, and you can get somewhat competitive. If you're thinking about law school, I do think it matters where you go. I think that you know, I think there is still a thought that a top-tier law school is going to be a better opportunity for jobs, and people, frankly, do look at where you go to law school in terms of law firms. And you know, there used to be a glut of lawyers, you know, maybe 5 to 8 years ago. Now I think it's changing. Now I think law schools, the enrollment in the last few years has declined, and now I think there's actually more opportunities for lawyers. But my advice to people going to law school is really study for the LSAT. If you're not already focused on grades, you know, a high GPA matters. Your LSAT really matters, and what you do in the summer really matters. So you've got, you know, sort of three sort of areas of concentration, and you really want to achieve in all three of those areas, you know, grades, work experience, and the LSAT, and study for the LSAT. It's a test that can be learned. You just have to practice it and practice it and practice it. It's drudgery, but it'll pay off. It might be different now, but I took the exam, I'm trying to remember when I took it in the fall. I studied for about 4 months, and I took a course. Maybe it's more online now, but I literally took a course where you would go to like a classroom for like 3 hours, and then I would take that course. I probably did it over the summer because I think it'd been hard to do that during school, and then I spent the afternoons taking practice exams. So I treated it like a job. So I probably worked 6 or 7 hours a day on the LSAT, and it's like I said, when it came time to the test, it was almost muscle memory, because it's not like you have the exact questions, but the patterns and the questions all start to materialize, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I know this, I'm familiar, this is where they're going, this is what they want, and it's a test that, you know, can be learned. So I would treat it like a really serious job, and you cannot take enough practice exams. It's like I said, it's not the funnest summer you'll have, but you know, if you really want to go to law school and go to a top-tier law school, you need to ace the LSAT. Here's what I would do. First of all, to be very specific, I wouldn't be intimidated or by the fact that they're looking for somebody with a different degree. Yeah. You know what? For the fact that you have fencing is going to separate you a lot. Yeah. I would apply. I would do a really good cover memo letter, not too long. But basically hit head on that here's why you as a history major should be considered for this job. And then what I think you want to do is find out, you know, say I would love to meet in person to demonstrate, well, I'm the best person for this job, and basically without being annoying, but be somewhat aggressive and say I want to fly out and give me a half hour of your time and I'll convince you why I'm the best for this job. And the fact that you have the fencing background is got to be, you know, pretty powerful. You go to a great school, and the fact that, you know, I'm not sure why they're looking for a specific degree given the job description. I think, frankly, that what they're looking for is somebody who's smart, who's has a good work ethic, who obviously has a passion for fencing, and is willing to learn. And if you have those attributes, you know, that's why from our perspective, we don't really care, candidly, what your major is when we're looking for people. You know, obviously, if we're looking for somebody in the accounting or finance department, it would help to have an accounting degree. But we actually have people, financial analysts, who didn't major in accounting. And most of my direct reports, I couldn't tell you what they majored in, because it really doesn't matter. I think you major in what you love, and if you love what you do, you'll get good grades and you'll learn and you'll apply that skill. So with the exception of, chemistry if you want to be a doctor, or accounting if you want to be a CPA, it's really not that critical what you major in. You'd be surprised. And once you get the entry-level job, you prove yourself, you prove your worth by your work performance. And candidly, your GPA and your major and all the stuff you did sort of fades in the background, and what you do in the job you have is all that really matters. So I think you should apply and be bold and go out there. Say, I'm going to give me a half hour and I'll prove that I'm the best person. It's hard to tell somebody no. If you have that kind of self-confidence, it's great. I was working as a private attorney in Los Angeles and got to know a lot of people in Los Angeles. The entertainment industry is a major focal point. So through some connections, I was able to get a job in the business and legal affairs, and what that was motion picture development, production, financing. You get to negotiate contracts with actors and directors and producers and all that kind of stuff. So, I think what I would do is try to, it's hard to ask for a job right out of college for people because a lot of companies won't hire entry level, or they're getting inundated with hundreds and hundreds of resumes. But what I always tell people is ask for career advice or ask to job shadow. And most people at any company are going to be very open to talking to a prospective employee or a student about their job. And if you're fortunate enough to get out to Burbank, I would recommend that you try to go on site to the Disney studios and interview with people. If you don't have any specific connections at the Walt Disney Company, I just go on their website and really start to, it's amazing how much information you get, more than just the Brewers website, but you can get some names of some persons, and you might not get to them, but you can get to their assistant or to somebody who works for them. And if you send an email that says, I'd love to talk to somebody about your job, I think more often than not, you'll get a favorable response. If you just send a resume saying, I'd like to be hired, you're probably going to fall into the human resources reservoir, and your resume will be there with hundreds and hundreds of other people.